Hello Super Friends and welcome to DC TV Talk. This is the show where we talk all things Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow and Black Lightning. And in today's video we'll be doing a bit more of an obscure and fun topic where we're going to be discussing how each of the members will go their separate ways in the Legends after the show concludes, and where they'll all go, what shows they'll go to, or if they'll just disappear into the depths of the Arrowverse. So let's discuss. So, Legends of Tomorrow is going to end very soon, I have a feeling. I feel it may get a Season 4. It hasn't actually been confirmed for Season 4 yet, but I feel it may get a Season 4, and that will be the end of it. We may get Season 4, maybe the final season. So that does beg the question where each of the Legends are going to go after this ends, because obviously they're not just going to be sat floating around in the temporal zone forevermore. They're going to have to go somewhere, or going to have to just leave the show and find their own way, and that's what this video is about. So let's start off by discussing all the members of the Legends. So I'll start off with Sarah Lance. Now I'm not going to spend too much time on Sarah because I did make a whole video on this kind of, but I feel Sarah would go back to Arrow. You know, Sarah, she came from Arrow, I feel she'll go back to Arrow as a full-time cast member. And this is again if Arrow's still going at this point, because obviously Season 7 is likely to be the final season of Arrow, just by the way the ratings are going. But maybe it'll go one more, who knows, but Sarah, I feel if Arrow's still going, then she'll definitely go back to Arrow, because again, she came from that show, she fits really well on Arrow. Her dynamic with Stephen Amell, who of course plays Oliver Queen, is on point. It'd be brilliant to see Sarah come back to Arrow at the moment, just because of the whole Black Siren storyline going on, but obviously that's very unlikely at this point. But I'd love to see Sarah come back to Arrow because she fits so well in that show. Her grounded nature, you know, she's not a superhero, she's not a metahuman, she's literally just a badass. I'd love to see her take on Arrow again, just to see how she'd be able to handle herself, because Arrow has grown and developed ever since she left Arrow back in Season 4, so it'd be interesting to see where she places and where she fits into the show now, but I think she'd easily go back to Arrow. Dr. Ray Palmer. Well, I feel Ray is an interesting one. Ray was always a fan favourite on Arrow. You know, he was introduced in Arrow Season 3, he had a bit of a stint in Season 4, he was also in The Flash for a few episodes in Season 1. So he's done the rounds a bit, and obviously then he went on to Legends. I feel Ray would go back to one of the shows, I just don't know which one. Preferably, I think Flash would work better, actually. Even though Ray is technically an Arrow character, he never really fit on Arrow that well, because obviously his powers are a bit out there, considering how Arrow is the grounded of the comic book shows. You know, I don't feel he'd fit on Arrow that well. Also, in terms of his personality, obviously he's quite quirky, he's quite funny, and Arrow's already got that in terms of Felicity, and obviously Arrow being a dark show, it doesn't need too many characters like that. We've got Felicity and Curtis, and that's pretty much all we need. I feel he'd fit on Flash a lot better. Just in terms of his powers, you know, Flash is a bit more accepting to metahumans. Obviously, you've got the main characters of Speedster, and then you've got Ralph Dibny, who's the elongated man. You've got Cisco, who can do breaches. You've got Caitlin, who of course has her frost powers. So I feel it'd be a lot easier to fit Ray onto the Flash. Also, in terms of his personality, I think he'd work a lot better. And also, it would be a bit frosty and awkward, I think, if he were to be on Arrow, just because of the whole relationship with Felicity thing, and then obviously Oliver and Felicity are now married, so it may just be some unnecessary, some unnecessary drama that doesn't need to be there. So I feel you could have Ray go back to the Flash. However, there is another possibility which I feel is quite high. Ray may die on Legends. I think Ray is one of the main Legends. You know, he is one of the original ones. I feel like he may die. I feel like he has a death just kind of looming over him. He may die this season, who knows? Or he may die in Season 4, I don't know. I just feel like Legends has quite a habit of killing, you know, a major member in every season. And I feel like Ray could be the one to go very, very soon. Now, what about Mick Rory? I also feel like Mick could also die on Legends. You know, Mick going through that whole character arc, it would almost seem fitting for him to die at the end. Just obviously he started out as a criminal, he went on to the Legends, he kind of became an anti-hero, and now I think we can all agree that now at this point in Season 3 he is pretty much a full-fledged hero. Although he still has his quirks and he still is Mick Rory through and through, he's not a criminal anymore. But to see him go through that character arc has been really interesting, seeing as he started out on The Flash and then moved into Legends, and, you know, the way his character personality changed, and he even, you know, went even further after Captain Cold was killed. I feel it'd be really interesting to see him perhaps die such as Captain Cold did, and die a hero. I feel that'd be an interesting way to send Mick out. If Mick wasn't going to die though, I don't see where he'd go. I imagine he'd just go back to Central City and retire. I think if Mick survives Legends and then it ends, I don't think we'll see Mick ever again, unless it's maybe the crossovers. I can't see where he'd really come into play. He's a bit of a weird character, so he could die, but if he doesn't, he'll probably just retire. What about Amaya? the Vixen. Now, I feel like Amaya is one of the more obvious ones. She'd just go back to Zambezi where she's from. I think that's quite an obvious one. You know, even in between the break between Season 2 and Season 3 of Legends, she went back to Zambezi. That's just where she'd go. It's her home, it's where she belongs. You know, she's very much accepting of her future and also her past, so I feel like she'd just go back there to live her life as is. So I feel Amaya's a bit more of an easy one. She'd just go back to Zambezi and live her life as it was. What about Dr. Nate Haywood? Now this is an interesting one. Nate Haywood, of course, originated on Legends. This is the problem with characters like Nate and Amaya, is they both came from Legends. So Nate, I love Nate. I think he's a really cool character, and he's of course he's of course Metahuman Citizen Steel. I feel Nate could go back to another show, even though he originated on Legends. I think it'd be really cool to see him go back to another show. He does have connections. You know, he does know Oliver Queen. That'd be interesting to perhaps see him on Arrow, but again, I feel his powers of the Steel powers is a bit too far-fetched for Arrow to comprehend. So he would fit on the Flash, and say if Ray does die, I feel like you could easily bring Steel onto the Flash. I think he'd fit so well on there, just in terms of his quirky personality. Again, he has connections. Obviously, he's really good friends with Wally. I feel like he could just fit into that team really nicely, and even though he may not be useful just as Nate Haywood, because obviously he is a historian, which on Legends works really well, but on the Flash you don't really need a historian. But in terms of his meta powers, I feel like, say if Ralph Dibny's no longer around and Barry needs a new sidekick, you could easily have Steel there, and like I said, I think Nate Haywood would fit really well on the Flash. I'd love to see him go to the Flash, and if that happens, then I feel that'd be great, because I think Nick Zano is really good in the role. I think he's so likable. So just to waste him when Legends ends, I think would be a mistake. So where could you put him? In my opinion, he'd be best suited on the Flash. And then speaking of Wally, Wally West. Wally West is of course the newest member of the Legends. He joined very, very recently within the last couple of weeks. And he is of course Kid Flash. Wally would either go back to the Flash as Kid Flash on a recurring role, or he'd maybe just retire and just stop doing all of it like we saw in between kind of like the Flash Legends, you know, kind of thing, when he was kind of in the middle of the two. Just because obviously he was feeling very neglected by Team Flash, he wasn't being used at all as Kid Flash, so I feel like he may not want to go back there, but obviously I think if he did go back, even if he retired, I still feel we'd see Wally pop up every now and then as a recurring role, like a guest star. I feel we'd still see him pop up every now and then, because he is a pretty quintessential character when it comes to the Arrowverse, so I feel he'd definitely play a role there. So he'd definitely go back to the Flash, but he could just retire and then show up every now and then. And then the last two characters I like to mention are ones I just don't have a clue. One of them being Zari Tomaz, who is of course the other new member from the Legends this season. I don't know where she'd go. I mean, she's from the future. She's from, you know, the year, I think it was 2022, wasn't it, where you know, metahumans are now, you know, they're against the law. So there's an anti-metahuman law, so that'd be interesting. I don't know where Zari would go. She'd maybe just go back to the future, and that was no pun intended. But maybe she'd just go back to 2022. I don't know. It's just, she's an interesting character. We don't really know that much about her, so it's difficult to pinpoint where she'd actually go from Legends. She's a weird character as well in terms of where she fits in, because she's from the future, but then she's also got a connection to the past because of her air totem. So it's really weird. I don't know where she'd go, and I can't pinpoint it whatsoever. And then I'd also like to throw in Rip Hunter. Now, Rip obviously started out on Legends. He's the original leader of the Legends. I have no clue where Rip would go either. He's such a complicated character. I feel like Rip would just go off and do his own thing. You know, that's what Rip normally does. He normally just goes off, does what he needs to do, does his own agenda, because that's what he's always been about, really. And we probably never see him again. I don't think we'd ever see Rip if Legends ends, because he doesn't really have any purpose or history outside of Legends where he could really pull from. So I feel he'd just be gone from there. He may show up at a crossover, he may show up like once again, like, you know, in like a one-off appearance. But I feel like after Legends ends, Rip Hunter and Arthur Darvill will be gone from the Arrowverse, which is sad because Rip Hunter is one of my favourite characters in the Arrowverse, but he would be gone because he just has no place, I don't think. So where do you guys think the Legends will go outside of the actual show when it ends? Of course, there are other characters to mention, like Jax, who is coming back to the show. Jax, I don't know, it's just, if he becomes Firestorm again, which I think is likely, he could go back to the Flash as a recurring role, like kind of like he was in Season 2, and kind of what they did with Ronnie Raymond, but I don't know. It's an interesting one. But tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Tell me where you think each of the characters would go, and if you agree with my theories. Who do you think could die? Do you reckon some other people could die? Or, you know, in terms of new members, we could even get new ones in the space of time, and then where they go. It's interesting. So tell me all your thoughts in the comment section down below. So thank you guys for watching this episode of DC TV Talk. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, it'll help me out a lot, and share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow and Black Lightning. And with that said, I hope to see you guys again in my next video.